Right then, good morning, folks, and welcome again to the Friday Talks. And just for fun, it's not raining.
That's because it's your birthday.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Right. Now, today, an interesting topic. Well, I would say an always interesting topic. And David and developments within the solar world. David.
Yeah. When Patsy asked me for a title, I said, no, well, let's go for solar on 9 million roofs or 10 million roofs. And then a couple of weeks later, I realized I'd done exactly that talk 2 months before, and I was starting to go gaga, obviously. But what's happened in the time since Patsy asked me if I'd do a talk and now is that the government has launched its local power plan. And so, uh, so what's that? And I've been exploring that, waiting for it actually, wondering what it would be, lobbying to have it include things that we need. And I'm going to try and go through it a little bit today, and we'll see where we get to. And what I've done is, so as you know, I've been thinking about local energy, community energy, solar energy for a long time. And every so often I subject you to my latest thinking, whatever that happens to be. And I, I find it extremely useful to focus my thinking and give me the chance to assemble my ideas. It's always a kind of milestone, but this is really something. The government have come up with their local power plan, and do you know what? Oh, share exists as an option. That's lovely. What I've done is I've assembled this time as pictures, a series of pictures. Now I've got to do is find them, and I share them. That's my slide sorter. I'm going to put up the first picture and I'm going to put it into full screen. And I'm going to hope that you're seeing that full screen. Right, good.
Great. Yeah.
So that is the guy grinning in the middle is Ed Miliband, who is the Minister of State, Secretary of State at the Department for Energy and Net Zero, Energy Strategy and Net Zero. And over to his right, two across in glasses, is Energy Minister Michael Shanks, who is a sort of at the same at a ministerial level, but not Secretary of State. So he's an Energy Minister at the Department of at DESNZ, however it's pronounced. It used to be so much easier when it was DEC. I like the Department for Energy and Climate Change. It's really easy to say that. Anyway, they came in, they were elected sort of spring of the year before last now, coming up for 2 years ago, on the platform of making Britain a clean energy superpower. And they'd said a number of things about what they were going to do. They were going to set up a company called GB Energy. They were going to double the amount of wind on land, wind energy on land, going to triple the amount of solar energy, and they're going to quadruple the amount of wind energy at sea. And they were saying they were going to put 600 million into local authorities for renewable energy and 400 million into community groups. And it's like, these are impossibly large numbers. And we've been waiting for, so how does that translate into reality? And I've been developing this solar project, which you'll hear more about as we go through this. I've been developing this idea for a local solar project in the face of a little bit of a planning blight, because it's like you're saying, what we want to do is this and this. And it's, yes, but we don't know exactly what the government's going to do when it does finally announce. And it might be something different, and it might, put the kibosh on our plans. So you had no idea. It's a sort of planning blight when the government's going to do something big and you don't yet know what it is. But we're getting there now. So at the end of July, the government published the solar roadmap. So there's been 3 announcements I'm going to take you through, and the last of which is the local power plan. But it came out in July with the solar roadmap, United Kingdom powered by solar. So this is about tripling the amount of solar. And I'm not going to take you through the whole document, but this is the key diagram from the middle of that document. What could 2030 deployment look like? And it's talking about, somewhere else in words, it's saying we're going from 17 megawatts of solar to close to 49 megawatts of solar. So they're going to, it's the equivalent of going from solar on the equivalent of 2 million homes to the equivalent solar on the equivalent of 9 million homes. If you look over the left, it says homes powered ground mount solar PV only. That's not that there won't be any solar on roofs, but they're saying it's mostly going to be ground mount. And it's like, why that? Our project, we had the chance to talk to Energy Minister Michael Shanks, and we said it's saying enough solar to be equivalent to solar on 9 million homes. Why not just put solar on 9 million homes? And he said, oh, he immediately said, that would have an effect on how much work we have to do to reinforce the grid, because we won't have to shipping the energy from solar farms to the cities. There'll be less of that if it's on roofs. And we said, well, yes, and more than that, Minister, with all due respect, if you put it on people's roofs, the energy will get directly to them at wholesale price, not retail price. So they will get bigger savings. And he said, right, we should look into that. We should put some effort into that. So that's and this plan, the solar roadmap, was prepared for the government by the solar energy industry. And you're thinking, oh yeah, well, of course they want it all on fields, because they want to buy the solar farms, they want to sell it into the grid and everything. And they're not really thinking so much about domestic rooftops. So there's a reason for that. But maybe this is going to change. Maybe, we'd mentioned that. And it was a little disquiet there. And then a couple of months ago, the government came up with its warm homes plan. And this is partly it's about energy on roofs. And when they announced it, they were saying this is 15 billion pounds. This is 15 billion pounds, which is, it's real money. And it's showing it's very much about retrofitting homes, not just so you see solar panels, reflective film, loft insulation, smart meter, induction hob and electric oven, meaning shifting from gas hobs, home energy management system. What's that? And then at night you've got heat pump, battery, air-to-air heat pump, and look in the garage there's an electric car and an electric car charger. So there's nice little diagrams of stuff. And then you get this key diagram, our 15 billion pound package, including an additional 1.5 billion. It's a lot of it has been announced already. Low income homes grants, 4 billion. Okay, how much does it cost to convert a home to being energy efficient? And the answer is it can be as much as £50,000. So when you divide 50,000 into 4 billion, it turns out that, if it was 50 billion, it would be, the numbers fly out of my head, but it's not, it's in the millions of homes. It's not the whole housing stock. And the boiler upgrade scheme, 2.6 billion, but they give people a grant of £7,000 to put in a heat pump. A new boiler might only cost £1,000, but they're giving grants of £7,500 to put heat pumps in. Divide that into 2.6 billion, and that's 4 million at most. And we have 18 million homes connected to the gas grid. So you see what
David, what is Barnet consequential?
Yeah, lovely. It's I looked that up so I would understand. Basically, it means and Northern Ireland and Wales and Scotland. It's and I can't explain it, but that's what it means. It means all of the UK.
Right. Okay.
So budgeted for the whole country. And then heat networks, you think, wow, billion on heat networks. And then you think, hang on, Bristol's heat network cost 400 million. So a billion on heat networks is, wouldn't even do Manchester. So it's, whilst 15 billion sounds like a huge amount, it's actually a big first step, but it's nothing like the whole journey to net zero. And I sort of think of, I'm going to show you in a minute what we've got as a sort of because there's not much mention of solar and storage in there. So we felt relieved, if you like, because we think that we can get institutional money, bank money, to pay for solar and storage. And that's what we've been working towards. And there's a lot of room in this because there's billions more to spend to get to net zero and to get us to 100% renewable energy. So that's the Warm Homes Plan. And then finally, just a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, out comes the Local Power Plan. And
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Patsy.
Well, I'm really sorry. You do carry on.
Okay, we'll carry on. Sorry, Patsy.
Just coming.
Right. And this is the Local Power Plan from Great British Energy, from the energy company. And as it was announced, I haven't got a slide with the single main thing in it. The single main thing is that they are talking about putting £1 billion into community energy to finance the formation or projects of 1,000 local community energy groups. So, and I think, wow, we have nothing like that. There's a few hundred local energy groups, and at the moment, the sum total of everything that they have done so far is about £400 million. So this is 2.5 times as much as everything that's been done before, and 2.5 times as many local energy groups. And all this is going to come is that there's a group going to be set up to handle this. So that's the headline announcement. And now the question is, how's that going to land? How does it affect a project like ours? But I'm just going to pause for a moment because you may have questions already, and I'm ready to. I don't want to sort of just keep I'm sort of half familiar with this. I've been studying this. I by no means got it figured out. I've got a version of it which page by page is highlighted. Oh, this paragraph's important, this paragraph's important, and so on.
Yeah.
But I don't want to go through it word by word. Any questions or observation? That my big thing is the government said it was going to do something, and now all the announcements are out in three big packages: the solar roadmap, the warm homes plan, and now this local power plan. It doesn't include what they're going to be doing in the North Sea with wind from Great British Energy, but that doesn't affect us domestically.
How much does this show us that the big energy companies will not come along and gobble all the money up?
Well, it makes it very clear, Ray, because reading the document in detail explains what the process is for local energy groups to form, how they can get the money, and what GB Energy will do, are resourcing up to do to tackle the barriers to communities generating and owning their own energy. So they acknowledge that it's difficult to access finance for local groups. They acknowledge that there are regulatory things that make it difficult for communities to do things. It's hard to get planning permission for a solar farm. It's hard to get a grid connection. And we're saying, well, we'll do the easy bit. We'll just put solar on roofs. You don't have to have planning permission for that. And the house has already got a grid connection. But we need help to on the payment side, because we want the community to own and install solar on people's roofs. So it's not a problem for you. We come along, we say, you haven't got solar on your roof, have you? And you say, no, I haven't. And we say, would you like some? Won't cost you anything. We'll put it on. We'll look after it. Well, how do I get the electricity? Well, you get it at a discount. It's not free. We, the community, you're a member of the co-op, and we'll sell you the electricity, is the idea. And in fact, so what would that look like? So we are telling the government that we want to do this, and we're getting good reception. So that's right. So we want to have a very simple offer for people. I know this looks like a spelling mistake. It says cheaper electricity for the people of Skelmersdale. We've got a project in Bristol and we've got a project in Lancashire. Actually, Skelmersdale is our graphic designer's way of saying, when you want 500 copies of this, I'll send you an invoice and I'll correct the typo. In other words, you haven't bought the copyright on this yet. It's a draft, but all the complicated things that I've said in the past become no upfront cost, lower bills. It's owned by the community, and then the flip side of it is it's a new solar offer. We expect to cut energy bills by about 37. You join the scheme, you get solar panels and batteries. No upfront capital cost to anybody. You don't have to pay. It's owned by a local community energy organization, which we're setting up with the help of this local power plan. We're going to give you batteries as well, so that if the solar charges the battery during the day and you're out during the day, you'll be able to access the energy in the evening because you've got a battery. And I'm going to mention this project in Wilmslow. We've got a partner project in Wilmslow that's already thought this through. So there you go. A new solar offer for Skelmersdale. And this is the three of us. The guy on the left is Paul Cotterill, who's our contact in Skelmersdale. And there's Andy O'Brien, my chum Andrew Baker, and colleague Iris Partridge signing in at West Lancashire Borough Council, you can see in the background. and we're sitting down in the council chamber, which is lovely, for a meeting to discuss what we're going to do. We're with, that's on the right is Councillor Gareth Dowling, who is the sort of lead, he's the leader of the Labour group. And he's sitting down and he's saying, I got some bad news, which is the government has given in to, there were going to not be elections this year so that we could get on with stuff, because there's going to be more elections in a year's time and it's a sort of waste of time. But Reform have challenged, and the government has said, OK, well, have elections then. And in West Lancashire, Reform is expected to win. So all of a sudden, Gareth is going to be not our main contact for the next few weeks. He's going to be fighting an election. But that was our weird news. We're sitting down. And this, on Gareth's screen, is the map of where our project area is in Skelmersdale. It's in part of Skelmersdale known as Tanhouse and Digmoor. And down at the bottom right is the main shopping centre, which you can't see, just off screen there. And it's about 300 homes that we're looking at putting solar and storage on. There's it in a bit more detail. And these are called the A's and the B's and the C's because it's a new town. And so the roads are all named, I can't even see, yeah, Cherrycroft, oh, that's Cherrycroft, lots of Cherrycrofts. Collington, Cornbrook, and then there's the B's are Beavers Lane, Birkrigg, Bearcroft, and the A's are Abbeywood and Alderley and so on. So they in local code, where our project is the A's and the B's and the C's, and so we headed off from Ormskirk to Skelmersdale. That's the library on the right. The Concourse Shopping Centre, one single big shopping centre on the left. Us about to go in. Another picture of the library, I'm not sure why. Inside the concourse, a big area where they hold a market every Saturday. And this is us. We went to the coffee pot and got ourselves organised. And then here we are heading off into the A's, as it were. And that's what the houses look like with their roofs. It's the last new town that was built, and it was a bit on the. It's not Milton Keynes. It's not all lovely, and it's certainly not, a garden suburb. But it's pleasantly rural. But the houses are a bit sort of council housey. A lot of them look like this, and then there are some. Here's us. And then there's some slightly more bricky, upmarkety homes. But this is the area that we'll be working in, putting solar and storage. And this is Andy O'Brien, who is with us here, has been working as a consultant for Transition Wilmslow. And in Wilmslow, I think I've got a map. Is there a map? Yeah, right. They've picked an estate with about 700 homes in it, that's sort of all built at around the same time. And they looked at 3 different options for what they could do in that estate. One is just to put solar on people's roofs and let people have individual generation and billing. Second is virtual energy sharing, putting solar and storage across a bunch of roofs and sharing the energy within that area, which is what we're proposing to do in Skelmersdale, which has the advantage that even if your roof isn't suitable for solar, you could be getting electricity from somebody else's roof. So it's much fairer than a random lottery where you put solar on roofs because they're suitable for it and other people just don't get it. So we're talking about what's called a shared virtual microgrid, but it's sharing the solar from the roofs to the people's houses. And then the option C is to do it with actually separate wiring to do that. And they're saying their preferred option is option B. And the grant funding organisation up in the Northwest loves this proposal, and it likes what we're proposing for Skelmersdale. We've already met with them, and they say, no, this is great. We like it. So we're a preferred option. The numbers stack up. They're saying it will cost about somewhere between £8,000 and £10,000 a home to put solar and storage on. You get so much electricity from it. They overestimate the cost of putting the systems on. They underestimate the amount of electricity you'd get, and they're still giving people at least 15% saving, and people would be happy with that. We think we can install a bit more efficiently. That will get a bigger solar yield, and that will give people 30% energy saving. Oh, and this is like, so we arrive in Skelmersdale, and we're talking and we're wondering, how are we going to get continuity? What's the organization that we're going to work with ongoing? And it turns out the government has got a scheme called Pride in Place, where a number of disadvantaged areas will get 20 million, 2 million a year over 10 years. Now, a while back, Lawrence Weston were in a scheme called Big Local, and they got £100,000 a year for 10 years, 1 million in total. But they turned that into enough work to create a refurbished community centre, a solar farm, and a wind turbine. They used the money to seed projects that are going to keep ongoing, things going ongoing. In Pride in Place, if you're a lucky winner of Pride in Place, then you're going to have 20 million over the next years. Well, Ashley Dalton, their local MP, has got a Pride in Place grant for, excuse me, that for our area. We're planning to go in and put solar. We'll finance that, but it will be in partnership with a community organization that's got 20 million to invest in upgrading the area over the years. I can't begin to tell you how huge a wonderful coincidence that feels like.
Yeah.
So good old Ashley. And we haven't met her yet, and she's not that old, actually. I'm much older than she is. She's August 1972. I'm February 1947. But so she has done this great job of, and this is part of the government wanting to demonstrate what happens when you invest in a local community and really lift it up. And we're there. And this is just a little bit, you'll recognize, I showed you our cheaper electricity for the people of Skelmersdale. This was back in 2012 when we had that. What you're seeing, the picture on the right, is the solar panels on the roof of Hamilton House. She put on Hamilton House in 2011. And we were working with the same agency, Stuff Advertising, and they created this lovely logo for us and this brochure, and very similar language, right? Just half a dozen, 4 or 5 paragraphs. Streets of solar. We want to put clusters of solar. You don't have to pay for it. If we do enough of it, it will create jobs. It's good for the environment. It's good for Bristol. And we did a little pilot project. We put solar on 23 roofs. We wanted to do more. In the end, we just did 23. And as the feed-in tariffs came down, it proved difficult to expand and continue the project. We knew we would have to wait until feed-in tariffs had gone away and the cost of solar had come low enough that you could put it on people's roofs and sell them electricity at a discount. But this is our project in Lockleaze. This is some of our installers getting ready to put solar on a house. And this was Mayor George Ferguson saying he wants Bristol to be a clean energy superpower. He said he wanted to have a gigabyte of solar on Bristol, not a gigawatt, a gigabyte. And we're saying it's not a chip, it's a panel. And he went, oh yeah. But you know, we're in this. You can see we're in a tent outside City Hall there with our banner, and we were doing that project, and that was the learning. It's on the basis of that. So I've been doing this now since 2011-12, trying to figure out how you can make a scheme that puts solar for ordinary people and creates a community benefit as well. And this is just a little bit of nonsense. If we were going to get big, they had some concepts for us, right? And that was a sketch that they drew for us, and then they said, so if we put it up on the big billboard in Stokes Croft, this would be what it looks like. The eyes are quite scary, but it was a bit of fun, right? It was taking the power back, and we had other simpler concepts. But so I've been playing with this for years, but now because of the government, it's come full circle. And this is a diagram. This is 2 slides before the end now. This is a diagram that I started years ago. I found the bottom left of this, those yellow dots, in Wikipedia, in an article called Growth of Photovoltaics. And the growth seemed to be on a straight line, but it's on a logarithmic scale. So every time it goes through one of those lines across it, it's 10 times. And every year, Wikipedia added a new dot. The guy who created this graph, Ramesh Nam, added a new dot. And you couldn't see, they weren't attempting to project the line, and they weren't showing how that fits in with world energy consumption. But I was thinking, well, you know, you can play with this, and it is a straight line. Obviously, I'm going to extend it. And then where am I going to extend it to? How much energy do we use? And so those top 2 lines are all the energy, all the electricity that the world uses. And I've got it going up quite steeply at the end because you will be cutting out fossil fuels. You know, we shift from petrol cars to electric cars. And total in the gap between world energy consumption and world electricity generation is because generating electricity isn't very efficient. You put tons of coal in to a coal-fired power station, and only 30% energy comes out. So, and the rest of it is pollution. As soon as you've got solar and wind, and recently I showed that diagram to ChatGPT, and it said, do you want to play with it a bit more? And we reworked it with wind energy as well. So the blue line going up is solar, overtaking the yellow line, which is wind in 2020. Combined, they cross world total energy at the same time, which I forgot to mention in the last one, about 2032, which sounds improbable, but that's what we've been doing. China, the last couple of years, China emissions have not been going up in China because they've got so much renewables now that they're installing renewables faster than coal-fired power stations. They're taking the fossil stuff out as fast as they're putting renewables in. So emissions have leveled out. And by 2032, that will be tumbling down, which is great. What's the time? How are we doing?
11:39.
Right. Ray, you work near here. You will recognize the Birdman, yeah?
Oh, yes.
Right. So I had a little bit of fun. I was walking up Park Street the other day. This is an AI interlude. I was walking up Park Street. I had a lovely chat with the Birdman, took a picture, and then I fed it into an AI. Right. So this is the Birdman. I'm going to take him some prints of this. And this is him as in a completely different form. And I think it's lovely that you can. We've been using this technology to help develop our project. And that's him in a, you know, we the artistic freedom is coming online, that you can play with things. So take a picture and you say, show it as a little cartoon. And I did this is me and my friend Claudia in down at the coast. And that's us in anime. That's us in Vincent van Gogh, Cubist,
Yeah.
Andy Warhol, right? So, sorry. And she was on holiday in Australia, feeding a kangaroo, and here she is as a cartoon character. So that's my. This. I've left out the best one. This is me. That's Sam Altman, who runs the company that did those pictures. That's him as a cartoon. And here is me. This is me participating in the annual penguin race.
I hope you all won.
Yeah. That's just a little bit of nonsense. So that's my slideshow. There's obviously much more to this. We're going to be discovering it. Community groups are invited to submit expressions of interest, which include some idea of what their plans are and what help they need. So, and the government and GB Energy is setting up to be able to support those community groups. And I'm suggesting locally that each constituency should submit an expression of interest. So we make sure that there's a community energy group in each constituency.
Mm.
So you've got an energy co-op in each constituency, which has got the people in that constituency cooperating, working together, thinking together about energy, and then maybe housing and so on. That's what I hope will grow out of this.
Mm-hmm.
Stop sharing. There you go. There will be more on this. This is very formative. The plan's only just been announced, and we've been waiting years for it. And I've been running around excitedly talking to anybody I can, saying, now we can start working on this.
Yes. Yeah. So we need to be looking around to form local community energy groups. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm thinking there's 600 constituencies in the country. How many Quaker meeting houses are there?
Do we have 6?
In Bristol, we've got 6, but I'm thinking, across the country, it must be 400, 500 meeting houses. I don't know.
Are you talking Quakers when you say constituency, or say, Darren Jones is my MP in Bristol Northwest. Is that, when you say constituency, is that what you mean, or are you talking Quaker language, which is something different, maybe?
Oh, good thing. Well, no, I'm absolutely and definitely talking parliamentary constituencies, because if you've got government putting this money into communities, then it would make sense to divide it fairly and evenly, so that everybody gets to be on the starting grid.
Yeah, the only problem with Bristol Central, is that it's a Green idiot, and the new leader of Greens, I think, is a creepy. He's a hypnotherapist that hypnotized women to think their breasts were bigger than they were. No, it's nothing to smile about. That is creepy.
I'm sorry.
So I'm saying, would it, if you live in Bristol Central, your MP would be Green, not Labour.
Yeah, my idea is that this is not a party political activity.
Okay.
The Labour Party can't be seen favouring its own people, although, of
No,
course,
but constituencies depend on electoral boundaries.
yes.
So you're definitely, because Darren's boundary is huge. It goes all the way up to Shirehampton, I
Okay,
think.
so if you so it, I I'm in no position to make this happen, Angela. So I haven't got the £1 billion to dole out.
No, no, I know that.
But
I know that.
In Bristol, I'm saying to the council, we should have at least one energy project in each constituency. Actually, we've got plenty of energy groups, and I'm saying the same thing to the Wecker mayor. You've got a group more constituencies, and
Yeah,
you're responsible for the whole southwest. And
yeah.
some places haven't got a community energy group, and some have. Let's help seed community energy groups fairly evenly across
Yeah.
our area.
Well, the Wecker mayor has already announced that she's got a fund for energy, hasn't she?
Well, it's this fund.
Yeah, so, okay, I'm with you. Sorry, I'm slow. Talk statistics to me and I don't understand till it's sort of real
Yeah.
people. So you're talking about the money that the Wecker mayor has just announced that she's got to spend on energy.
Yeah, because I'm talking to you about the local energy plan, and she's talking about the local energy plan too.
Yeah, sorry, I'm really
You know, do,
slow-witted.
do you,
Statistics, my eyes glaze over.
yeah.
Sorry, David.
Well, it's and I
There are
apologize for um,
yeah,
I
there are
apologize for having had to learn all this. But when you could see that the only way to tackle global warming was by stopping emissions, and the only way, you can't just say just stop oil. You can't say that. But, and you can sit down on the M25 and the police will haul you away and keep the cars moving. So the thing that you've got to do is make sure that vehicles start to use renewable energy. And did you know that in this country, in December, over half of the new cars sold were electric? And not hybrids with, a motor and a bit of a battery and fully battery electric vehicles, over half already. Not 2035. By 2035, all vehicles have got to be. Well, we're halfway there in 2026 already.
we've got 5 Labour MPs in Bristol.
Yeah.
So surely they should be really pushing this as part of what we are. My MP at the moment is Calia, who I have no problems with whatsoever. I've always found her interesting, honest MP. But I don't know her that well personally. But I have been and remain a Labour member for many years, and I think this is a chance where the Labour Party in Bristol should actually start pushing this quite enthusiastically.
And the Lib Dems are all for renewable energy. In the coalition government with what was his name? What was the Prime Minister called? Anyway, Ed Davey was the energy minister, the Lib Dem energy minister, and he was really gung ho for renewable energy. And it was only at the end of when the Conservatives got an absolute majority that they decided they would cut out the green rubbish. But by and large, the Lib Dems, Labour, and the Greens are all very much pro-renewables, and I think even Reform voters will suddenly find that they're pro-renewables if it means your energy bill is going to go down 500 quid as opposed to stay really expensive. So it could be an electoral lesson making sure that renewable energy is available to everyone in every constituency. It isn't that you have to force it. It's that there will always be somebody who wants to set up an energy group. And the companies who distribute energy are already in some parts of the country geared up to help. You can go along and say, I'd like to set up an energy group and I don't know how. And they say, oh, great, right, sign up here. We've got a whole program. We'll take you all the way from forming your energy group, setting up the rules, blah, 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 finding the money, having operating assets. In the northeast of England, they do the whole thing. It's a wonderful program. We just want that to be make sure that somebody's making sure that there's a group, group pretty much everywhere doing that.
Yeah, I think I was talking to Chris Green about this the other day, and I think you were involved in the end, David. And he was saying the reason he can't have solar power on his roof because he's got Velux. No, David Moat, who said he's got Velux on their roof, so he can't put solar panels on them.
Yes, but if you treat this as an individual thing, then you get people who've got a nice house and a nice roof and a little bit of cash stowed away, and who think they're going to be in their house for at least 10 or 15 years, because there's no point in putting solar on if you're going to be moving. And there's not much point in putting solar on if you're going to be pushing up daisies in a couple of years either. So there's a bit of calculation doing, and that's why we've only got solar on 1.5 million roofs. So we set out 2 years ago, Resilience Network, to try and figure out what would be the most irresistible and intelligent offer, right? So that you could go to people and say, we'll put solar on your roof. You don't have to worry about it. If your roof needs fixing up, we'll find a way to do that. We'll look after the solar. And you will buy the energy through an energy company, or at the start, the energy companies actually don't know how to handle selling electricity to somebody from a community group who've put it on their roof. They can measure the electricity with a smart meter. They can measure what's exported, but they can't say, oh, well, you used so much. Because normally it's, well, we note that you've got solar off your roof. That's why your bill's lower, because you're using your own electricity. We want them to say, we noticed that you got solar off your own roof. That's why your bill's lower, but it's at a discount. You've got some solar off your roof with a discount. But somebody like David Mowat, Ray, we could still put storage in his house. And one of the things, if you put a battery in somebody's house, they can charge the battery. The price for electricity varies during the day now. You can get time of use tariffs, right? So you charge the battery when the tariff is low, and you use the electricity from the battery when the tariff's higher. So you actually save money just by having a battery. And that especially, and at night, you can get night rate electricity, right?
Yes.
Which are normally only used for storage heaters. Storage heaters are wired into it, but your battery can be intelligently wired into your white meter, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of doing, at the moment, we're just totally used to how the system has been. And the possibilities have changed because of solar energy, and we're trying to visualize what the possibilities are realistically. And we know for sure that solar panels cost X. I mean, you can buy a kilowatt of solar panels in Germany that you stick on your balcony, £600 a kilowatt, right? And a kilowatt of solar will generate 1,000 kilowatt hours of electricity in a year. And it will work for 30 years. So that's 30,000 kilowatt hours for £600, which is 60,000 pennies. So your electricity is tuppence a unit, not 25 pence a unit. Tuppence a unit. That's the possibility. The possibility is that once you've paid off the finance, if you try and pay the finance off very, very quickly, then yes, the cost is a bit higher. But if you spread it over 30 years, or it can at least be 10 pence, 12 pence, 8 pence, something like that. And we can start people off cheaper electricity. And then as the solar panels get cheaper and as they are paid for, the cost of the electricity comes down further still. So that's what we've been doing. We've been running the numbers so that we understand what the savings could be when you put solar on your roof. Sorry, I've wittered along as always. Have you got some sense of what's possible and what I want people to understand that the government really is doing stuff. It took them a while to get their ducks in a row. And they may yet get kicked out by reform, but the point is, what we're doing works without government funding. If we can get it going over the next couple of years, it will have its own momentum. It won't need government funding to keep going. If a different government comes in, we'll say, well, you've got a community energy group, you've got solar on 100 or 1,000 roofs already. How many more have you got? Oh, 10,000, right? Well, let's between 2020, whatever it is, 8 and 2032, let's get it on as many people as possible and get us down to net zero.
That's really exciting. I really, it really feels it's within reach,
Yeah, I mean, I've known all along. That's why I had this diagram, right? And I've been, with this line on it. And I've got people who say, David, you've been showing us your diagram for years, and you were always saying that we're going to be net zero by 2030, and it's completely impossible. And I'm saying, no, it's actually completely inevitable. It's, when Apple came out with the smartphone, it was like, if you saw the presentation when Apple announced the iPhone, you thought, well, everybody's going to have one of these because there's no reason not to. And everybody will have solar because there's no good reason to pay. Why pay 10 times as much for fossil energy? There just isn't a good reason for it. But with Apple, even when Apple announced the iPhone, they hadn't got the Apple stores going properly, and they hadn't got the deals through the networks. So an iPhone cost £1,000. And it was a little while before an iPhone cost you, well, it's on your phone bill. You get a new phone every few years, and your phone bill's £20 or £30 a month. There you go. We want to make it the same thing, that your solar is on your electricity bill. Oh, does that mean the electricity bill's more? No. The electricity bill's less.
Yes.
Very cheering, actually.
It's nice to have something which is positive these days, rather than the classic British thing of everything being negative. It is good.
It's there's always questions, and there's always I know what's going to put the kibosh on that. But actually, that's been true. There was one period of 2 years when nearly all the American solar panel makers and all the European solar panel makers all failed. They all collapsed. They all went broke. And on my graph, the amount of solar goes up, not down, because they'd closed because Chinese had entered the market. And they'd entered the market with cheaper panels. So there was a wave of crashing companies, but it was as a new wave it was an. I'm looking at Patsy's screen there and seeing these waves coming to the shore. There was a, there was a sort of tsunami of Chinese solar panels hit the shore, and so there was more solar, not less. It's great. The same kind of things happened. There was a slowdown during COVID, of course.
There is also going to be, I think, a wave of Chinese cars coming along after that. And what it does to Mr. Tesla is going to be interesting to see.
Well, this keeps going. Last night I saw a brand new program, and what it is, it's sort of like ARC. I wish I could remember the name of it. I will put a link to this because I'm mentioning it here. I'll put a link in the description. What it is, it's a way of taking an ore like lithium, and instead of processing it chemically, you process it electrically with a very carefully calculated energy, which is exactly the right amount of energy to vaporize the lithium, right? And it combines with chlorine and forms something, and then you get the chlorine out. And the chemicals recycle, and it just uses a specific amount of energy, and it cuts the amount of energy for extracting and recycling materials by 80 to 90%. And it will do that for everything. Starting. So, we're not just making everything electric, but we're finding more intelligent ways of using our electricity. That's great. Cleaner planet.
Yeah. Right. Well, as usual, David, you have given us all food for thought, and long may it be so.
Yeah, thank you, Ray.
But
it's lovely that this is landing on your birthday. This is my birthday present to you, Ray. Is a cake of optimism.
Right then. Now in March, Patsy.
You might have you got David Mowatt's newer title for next week? Did you get it, Ray?
Quakerism and jazz.
That's
Isn't
the
that
one.
what
Yeah.
Play in the notes you can't hear. Quakerism and jazz.
Great.
Yeah.
There's an interesting statement for you.
Lovely.
Come next week and find out what happens.
I think I can't join you till 11:30 next week. So
Okay.
somebody who's got their button on the kind of letting in mechanism.
I think you just land. There isn't we haven't had to institute a kicking out policy. I joined a Quaker meeting, a daily Quaker meeting for peace in Ukraine, and on one occasion we had an actual streaker arrived. It was so strange, standing by a bath and jumping all around the screen. They'd figured out a way of sort of changing where they were so that who was the person hosting it couldn't kick them out. So so the next day, they'd instituted a sort of Quaker a greeter at the door policy for the meeting. We haven't had to do that yet. So we look forward to seeing you when you arrive, Marion.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Okay. Well, go out and enjoy this sunny day today.
Thank
Can't
you,
see
Ray.
any
Will do.
sun.
Take
I
care,
can't see
everyone.
any sun, and lots more rain is forecast. So.
I'm looking out.
Oh dear.
I've got bright sunlight. You're in the wrong part of Bristol, Marion. Whereabouts are you?
Westbury Park.
Okay. Well,
Where are you?
I'm just opposite Temple Meads, so it's sunny over here.
Marion's just down the road from me, so
Enjoy.
Okay, right.
It looks like Rosie's in sun.
Okay.
down at Portishead.
Right. Bye,
All
everybody.
good.
Bye-bye.
Okay. God bless.
Uh,
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, all.
Bye.
Thank you.